You know what I'm doing? I'm dusting myself off.
From 3
My
months
God.
of sitting on the shelf.
Jesus. I unpacked the mothballs that I had in front of me, and welcome back, Jenny. It's been a long
Indeed.
time.
It does. You know what? It's been such a long time. I had to pull up the scripted version of where we stream to because it's no longer in my memory bank to just reel it off. I think it has been, we were trying to figure this out about 5-10 minutes ago. We think it's about 3 months because I did a show alone from the UK's Tech North. And then prior to that, I think we streamed pre-ISE. But everything has been crazy and busy, but we are back. So welcome back. We are streaming around the world via Midwich's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Ask us your questions as usual. Comment through whichever chat function on whichever platform you're using. And if you don't get to watch today's show, as always, you can watch it back via Midwich's YouTube channel. And if you don't like our faces, you can listen to us in podcast format as well via Midwich Sounds.
See, now we got the I guess our rules and regulations and the housekeeping done. But let's now let's give everybody the fastest 5 minutes of what we've been up to and what's been going on. So first, let's go real quick. ISC, let's go way back. Let's go in a time machine. Tell us about what you saw, what was good, what was bad. Quick, just very quick.
Yes, it's crazy, isn't it? So ISE, I'll be completely honest, and this has nothing to do with the organizers of the event or the fact that we were able to all get back together. But ISE as an AV tweets and reconnection opportunity was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But I actually returned in a pretty bad mood when it comes to tech. I think the phrase on Twitter was firmly evolution, not revolution. And that really did feel like the case. But that doesn't mean to say that it wasn't a fantastic show. I think it's just that we had such high hopes for, stuff that maybe we'd been kept in the dark about, and this whole range of new tech that was going to appear to us at the first proper in-person event. And in reality, that was really punching. That was never going to happen. We've all been in crisis mode for a fair portion of time, and that's what we saw at IC. But what a great opportunity to get back together en masse. And then Chris, we went to Infocom.
Yeah, Infocom was well attended. Was well attended by both Midwich and obviously Starin, but there were people at Infocom. The numbers, I think, were somewhere in the 20,000 total. Very interesting. Very good show to get back to. You actually saw technology. I mean, honestly, I went. Starin, for example, announced that we are now distributing Crestron in the US. So that that gave us another new product. It gave me a little bit of imposter syndrome. I hadn't touched Crestron in a while, and I was a consultant. I used to design, I used to spec, I used to maintain this stuff as a technology manager. And I came back and went on a whole big certification thing because I have a whole new product line in the NVX UC products to add to our portfolio. So, as distributors, and for the folks that are watching, we not only deal in just one product, we deal in multiple products. And for us, the more we know, the better educated we are on the products, and the products that what they can do is a benefit to the integrators. So ultimately, it required a lot of deep dives for me since I've returned. Though imposter syndrome wasn't the only thing I returned with from Infocom, unfortunately. I was one of the ones who fell ill, but I am back. Things are good. We are back live. I love our ability to go back live. Today, we have a great show planned. We have an interesting topic because as I came back with a little bit of the imposter syndrome and feeling kind of dumb for not knowing enough about certain things like audio and video and what was trending at the show, and you came back with a different perspective, Jen.
I came back a bit angry.
First of all, we got to work on your anger issues. That's 2 shows you've come back mad from. And
but for different reasons, right? For different reasons. Infocom for me, it was lush. It was absolutely lush, and it delivered the security, the safety, and the relaxation that I did not get from ISE. I felt so unshow fit for ISE. I felt nervous, apprehensive, anxious leading up to it because we hadn't done it for so long, and I don't know that fear and that anxiety that builds of I'm so used to being at events with these people that I've known for nearly 14 years, and yet we haven't seen each other physically for so long. I've been sat down for so long. It reminds me of the Disney film Wall-E. Like I've been on a floating chair, and now I'm expected to walk again. I was really nervous, and because ISE had happened, when we got to Infocom, I felt just at ease, ready for a show, and so on. And actually, Infocom did this year deliver a little bit more tech advancement. It felt like the marketing planned for ISE was delayed because of the postponement, but so we'd already seen it because it still happened even though the show was delayed. And then when we got to Infocom, we did actually get some press releases that were new news, and a handful of those little booths that perhaps didn't appear at ISE. But I don't think anyone could disagree that there were sort of two core themes running through the show. One of them was around experiential AV and immersive spaces, and that was loads of fun. I got to walk all over some LED flooring. I had a lot of fun messing around in a virtual studio. I loved all of the digital art, etc. And then there was the other theme, which was to be expected, and that was meeting equity. And
well, I mean, Infocom did a good job of actually splitting that up into two halls. You either went to go have
with a
experiment
very
on one
long
side.
walk in between the two.
So from New Jersey to the UK, you could go essentially to the experiential side where you kind of dealt with the LED and projectors in the live concert world, or you can step into the UC space where the whole conversation was based around meeting equity and the continuation of return to office and work from home and the battles between those. There's nothing better than putting work from home folks and return to office folks in the same arena and watching them do gladiator battles. It's amazing because they are all have their opinions, and I don't think none of this has really shaken out. But the one thing that has risen to the top has been this equity conversation, because one of the things that you were so angry about and how you communicated that back to me was that it was all or nothing on both sides. But when meeting equity rose, now all of a sudden now everybody's worried about how they're all going to feel and look in the same space, because nothing really has solidified. Nobody's really fully 100% went back to work, and nobody's 100% working from home still that I may know. Well, I am, but that's different. So meeting equity was a very interesting topic for today's show, and we have a special guest who'll be able to assist us with this. But you are not getting away with this, because Ifet just reminded me on the messaging. And if you do have a message, please drop it into the chat. Congratulations, 40 under 40.
Thank you.
It's a big deal. You come to Infocom and you get awarded. But what happens? Good things happen to people that come to Infocom. That is a invite to all out in the UK. If you come to Infocom, good things happen. We've had.
I think 40 under 40 means something a little bit different sometimes over here, because we have one. We have the Innovate 40 under 40, which you can be named to in consecutive years, and is usually a it can be a self nomination or a colleague or associate's nomination for you. This one I was quite touched by, actually. Because it's not a UK publication. Commercial integrator, it was great to have. I felt like I've been in an international role now for I guess about 4 years. So it was really lovely to see recognition outside of the UK, which I guess meant a bit more than recognition within the UK, where I've been working for 14 years. So I'm quite proud of this one. And thank you, Ifat. And also, Ifat, what a great show this week that you ran as well. I really enjoyed watching that yesterday.
So I'll be remiss to not add that our own from Starin, Joe Dunbar was awarded was made part of that class as well into the CI 40 under 40. There's a handful of us that can claim to be alumni to that. So welcome to that. I am I'm OG, and when it comes to that, I'm very old.
You only get one shot, right? So this is it.
You only get one
can't
shot.
have this again. Yeah.
I was actually in the first class that didn't even get a cover. So I was back page. I'm in like the footnotes in the back where you guys get this cool cover and everybody's out there, looking the part. But while we're at it, we might as well congratulate Ifat as well, because she was named One to Watch as part of the Installation Magazine's One to Watch, and a bunch of people and friends of ours have been nominated to that as well. I guess it's award season. It's coming. AV Awards will happen at some point, which is something that hopefully I have a conversation with, some news to give you guys in the near future, because I've been doing that alongside Tim Albright for a little bit, but we'll have to wait and see. What other news do I have? I have all these cards in front of me. I don't know what to, you know what? I'm not doing any of this.
I think we're supposed to talk about something that is returning this year, which is the Midwich Limited UK show, Technology Exposed. So yeah, we're very excited, and heading towards the end of our preparations now for Technology Exposed, which will return to Ascot this year, which I believe we have around 60 exhibitors.
Nice. If we only had a video.
Oh, I think there might be a video actually.
Maybe
we'll video.
Let's wish it. They don't mess around. Producer Ben is on point today with the slides, the music. Though I had to put down my my glow sticks when the music was over. I was kind of jamming along to the whole trance.
Edgy music.
Very very edgy, as you put it. Yes.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting one. So I also know that we've got a number of our European colleagues traveling to the UK for this show as well. So it's actually a really good time if you are a business that is selling globally, if you're looking to get into the international space, etc. Get yourself to Technology Exposed. Please come and see us, because the group team will all be there, and also a number of our colleagues from across EMEA will be joining us for that event. And we have keynotes confirmed from both Microsoft and Zoom, not at the same time, but which is quite cool, but certainly on the same day. So you'll be able to watch a keynote from one and a keynote from the other a couple of hours later.
If I'm correct, I think you guys are also doing a little bit of a hiring thing as well there. It's some sort of job fair. So it's a mix of everything. If you're in the industry, or if you have folks that are looking, bring them with you, because you know what? There may be opportunities at the Midwich company. So
definitely opportunities
ready. Yeah, anyway, so now we've gotten all the news. All of our news should be done. We can get to our guest and get to this conversation topic, because this, like I said, you came back a little angry. I tried to cheer you up with the 40 under 40 news. I'm not sure if that raised your levels, but let's.
Shall I tell you why?
Go. You know what? Okay. You know what? I'm going to break out my little pad and paper again. Let's go. Therapy sessions. Start with bugging you, and then we'll bring on our guest.
Here it comes. Here comes the rant. So, walking around the UC hall at Infocom, from stand to stand, I felt like I heard and read and saw the same thing, except that it wasn't the same entirely. So I walked to one stand, and I'm not going to name any manufacturers here, because there's no, everyone is guilty of this. And actually it's us, the industry are guilty of this. For years and years, we've been telling end users, we can fix your problems with tech. we can solve this for you, and so on. And I'm afraid it's time for that narrative to change a little bit. I walked from stand to stand and I read, this is the biggest problem that you will face. And here is our solution to that. And then I took 5 steps to a different stand and I read that something else was the biggest problem that we face in meeting rooms today. And here is the resolve from this manufacturer. And this continued to happen. And I guess I had on the way home, very tired, a bit of an epiphany. So I talk a lot when I do my trends and workplace and user trends talks about level playing fields, and how when we were all at home and we were all remote, we were on a level playing field. And I actually took that from a CIO's conference that I attended. Somebody mentioned it. And I thought, yeah, you're absolutely right. Everything changes when we start going back to the office and we have people in different locations. And it's been interesting to watch how many people go to the office and then go to separate rooms to join the same meeting. And there's a reason why it's happening. And it's not the tech. So we've had speaker tracking, right? So here's the answer to all your problems: speaker tracking. That's fine until you have 4 or 5 people in the room and you get that one person who, whilst the main speaker is talking or presenting and so on, they don't just nod along, they along. They verbally and vocally agree. Yes. Yes. Now, if they do that a little bit too much, it disrupts. And you know what? Even if you have speaker tracking that is intelligent enough to realize that that is background noise, when you are two-dimensional and this audio is coming to you, in most cases from the inbuilt speakers on your laptop or your display, it is horrific. It's a human issue. It's not a tech issue. Then we have the wide field of view cameras. Well, that's fine, but it's not overly comfortable for the remote viewer when you shove 10 people around a table, because the ones at the front are huge. The ones at the back are tiny. And then we have what I think is fantastic, neat symmetry, which is, I guess, as close as we have come to sort of an answer to multiple problems in achieving meeting equity. But once you reach a certain number, it's so busy. It's so much to view at any one time, especially if you are in a meeting that does not have content or a presentation that's taking focus on the screen. And I walked away from Infocom, and I've had a few speaker engagements since, and this has really been the sort of headline for me. It's not the tech, it's us, it's you. We have to change our behavior. This is how we are going to work now. There are, we've got huge green initiatives to follow, and I think it is fantastic that a lot of us are not doing unnecessary travel. I think it's great when we can get together face to face, and I do believe that, if you do have a meeting that involves lots of people and there's going to be multiples in different rooms together, it's time to just wait for that, put that on hold until you can all get together, or send everyone home or to separate rooms to do it remotely so that you can be more productive. We are desperate for, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Zoom, whether it's anyone, to come out and say, we've done the studies, we've collected the data, and we believe that this is the ideal ratio. If you have 5 staff in the same room and they can be respectful, quiet, have some meeting room etiquette, then you can have 2 remote joiners, but please don't exceed that. Or, if you're going to have many remotes, then you could perhaps have 2 to 3 people that are sitting in the same room. But it is really tough. And I have so many of these meetings, particularly being in an international role where there are multiple people in the same room, sometimes multiple people on 3 or 4 camera feeds, and they start to talk amongst themselves. They get up, they get down, it's distracting. There's no turning your camera off like we've been doing at home. So right now, if this was a meeting, Chris, and I needed to do something, or push the dog out, whatever it was, the camera would go off and I wouldn't distract that meeting by whatever was going on in my feed, in my space. But that rule goes out of the window too when we're in a meeting room. So rant over.
Rant is over. Are you okay? Because we will diagnose, and we will have Jenny's School of Video Etiquette segment. We will be playing that throughout the week here at Astera, so we will learn how to properly engage in meetings. But I kid. It's absolutely etiquette is something that, going back to the days of video conferencing, early days, was something that we would teach as on-site technicians, and technicians in general mute when other people are speaking. And then people didn't want to do that because they don't, it's like the conferencing systems, those big systems that they put in meeting rooms where you have to push to talk, and people don't like that. They want a free,
right. And that doesn't work. For anyone that watched the Johnny Depp case on YouTube with the lawyer who kept forgetting to switch her microphone on and so on. There's too much room for human error. This, for me, it's not a council chambers. You're not going to rehearse. You're not trained. It came up yesterday, right? Exactly. Hearsay. This came up yesterday with Chris and I about when you start a role where you're going to be a trainer or an educator, you receive training or advice or guidance on how to conduct yourself. And there's a reason why the return to or a hybrid version of education, particularly in higher ed, right, works really well, because there's structure, there's etiquette, there's a certain behavior exactly of how the participants who are students and the lecturer, how they engage and how they raise a hand and wait their turn, etc. But when you, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but certainly when you join Midwich, you don't, as part of your induction, learn how to conduct yourself correctly in a meeting. And I think maybe that's what we need to do. So let's ask the audience, what are your pet hates about, well, I guess, is it virtual meeting? No, it's hybrid meetings, isn't it? Yeah. So today's meetings, what are the worst things that people are doing, or what are the struggles that you're finding? And we have invited a guest today.
Yes.
So we wanted somebody to come and talk to us about their experiences, about what they are teaching, or advising to clients and trainees, etc. But also specifically somebody who is an expert in Microsoft Teams. And the reason behind that is we are fairly recently, we've received the news, or we're starting to see now, the rollout of Front Row, which is Microsoft Teams sort of best practice version of an MTR. And that's, it's an interesting step towards, this is how we believe you can achieve true meeting equity. So we wanted to have a guest who could talk to us a little bit about that and their thoughts on that. So Chris,
absolutely.
You going to introduce Tom?
I'm going to introduce Tom because Tom is, not only just not only is he a Microsoft expert in the world of Microsoft Teams, but Tom is fresh off of an American tour where he was, co-headlining with Guns N' Roses. No, I'm kidding. He was not co-headlining, but he was the keynote at the Comms v Next show, where he was speaking on behalf, obviously, of Microsoft and the product that is Microsoft Teams. So we decided, let's get ourselves an expert, because why not bring somebody who is from the IT side, who knows the cloud system, that can come and fight me, who is from the AV side, who has no idea about the cloud. So let's bring the two together and create some thunder and lightning. How's that? I tried with that cloud and the weather analogy. Let's see if that works. Producer Ben, let's get Tom on, and let's have Tom introduce himself and his company, and why I go to Tom as my go-to guy when it comes to the Microsoft stuff.
Hey.
Welcome, sir.
Hey, yeah, thanks for that intro. Yeah, I didn't realize I was coming on for a full-on fight, so that's good to know.
we like to blindside you when you agree. We don't tell you the whole story while you're coming on.
But now gloves are off.
But yeah, the gloves are off. It's actually a prank show. Wait until the person in the dinosaur costume runs through your house. It's going to be fabulous. It's going to be awesome. Tom, welcome to Midwich Live. Let's start by tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about Empowering.Cloud.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. It's really exciting to be on. So, like for me, just briefly, I come up through the IT world into this space. So, working with various customers of all sizes, way back into, for those who know, OCS, Link, Skype Business. So, come up the IT pro route. And towards the latter end of my career working at an MSP, working with some really big customers, hundreds of thousands of users in some cases, but always the IT side. And obviously our two worlds have kind of collided, the AV and the IT. More recently, in the last year, I've spun up a company called Empowering.Cloud, and we're kind of a Microsoft Teams Pro community. So we're covering news, training for the Microsoft exams, updates, and really trying to deal with the fact that the cloud is moving so fast and all these technologies are coming together. How do we help people understand them? So that's the idea, really.
Okay. Can you real quick also, before we go into it, can you give us a little brief, what was Comms vNext and what did you do out there? Because that's a very interesting show here in the States, but for you to, again, for them to fly you out there and put you up and do the whole keynote, it must have been something important. Please tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I really love that show. So it's been running for a few years. It's a community-driven event around Microsoft Teams. So it's run by 4 MVPs, so Microsoft's professionals who are putting their own time, community time, to build a conference, all sponsor backed. But the key thing is it's a few hundred people that all are in the space. So it's not just about the speakers; it's pretty much the whole community getting together. Yeah, I was lucky enough to keynote it and talk a bit about my journey and where I think things are going.
Excellent. And thanks to Tom and his blog site, tomtalks.com. That's how I got my Microsoft certification. Again, I got my sales certification because I went to Infocom, came home feeling very dumb that I do not know enough about Microsoft or Microsoft Teams and some other products that we picked up along the line at Infocom. So thanks, Tom, because it was your blog that specifically gave me the direction of where I can go and learn about that. Prior to, I had also reached out and said, hey, I need to understand a little bit better, what Microsoft Teams does on a UC front. And at the time, they didn't have something, but it seemed like they overheard our conversation, or maybe you had something to do with it. They went back 30 days later, this pops up and you're advertising it.
Yeah, Microsoft are making a really big effort in the AV space. You'll see they're doing workshops in London at the moment. They've got Barcelona coming up, where they're trying to spend more time with AV professionals, AV integrators, partners, to get them up to speed. I still think there's work to be done there between our two kind of camps to bring them together. But Microsoft are definitely making a big push, as you've seen.
Yeah, well, listen, I've provided Jenny with all the help I could give in terms of this equity question. It's your turn, buddy. I can't. I'm out of answers, and she's got a lot of questions. She's got a lot of anger, so just be prepared.
I'm in the firing line now.
Yes.
I think the first thing I'd say is I don't disagree with you on the people front, right? The vendors are looking to sell a thing, and the thing they want to sell is supposed to be simple so the customers can buy the solution. So they can't run around saying, no matter what you buy, you need to train your people, because that's not very sellable. So I think you're right. And it is funny, that we do get onboard training around how to book our holidays and how to use IT systems, but nothing around how to act on a meeting, or even basics around, good mute practice on meetings and having your camera not facing up your nose and all that good stuff. So, I think there's something to be said for that. And I think as hybrid meetings or just meetings now become the norm, I think that would be time well invested in organizations.
So on the subject of front row, I gave a talk recently in the Netherlands, and I threw up an image of the front row in use with it's one of the Microsoft stock images with the sort of curved but nonetheless sitting side by side in-room seating plan and the heckler stand for the 21:9 projection with the camera in front. And it looks lovely. And it was pointed out to me by someone, it doesn't look dissimilar to what we were doing 10 plus years ago in telepresence. And I had to agree with them in terms of the setup and the layout. The reality is now that very rarely do we come across an end user who can have a room that is solely for the purpose of virtual meetings. We almost always need for it to be used for just in-room, in-person meetings as well. And because now of hybrid working, there's usually a bit of a disparity in terms of the numbers that are remote and the numbers that are in the room. And of course, if the numbers of remote users in a front row setup is 1 or 2, and then you have 8 people sat side by side turning to talk to each other, doesn't work anymore. So I guess, could you give us some insight, being the expert, on what your thoughts are on front row, what you think it achieves, and maybe what else we need to see from the cloud platforms moving forward to help us get those equitable spaces, but also multi-use spaces?
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point about telepresence. I guess the big difference on telepresence, and I actually come from a Cisco background before Microsoft, so this is going back 11, 12 years, so quite a long time, but telepresence was around then, and it was a huge investment of identical paint, identical furniture, and identical seating layout on both rooms. So it was trying to emulate you're in the same room with a kind of imaginary divide. So there wasn't, it was a shed load of money, so it was for the very high end, and there was no remote element to it. It was the board in New York meet the board in London. So I guess front row, by comparison, is trying to bring that experience to a lower price point, obviously, but also a slightly more flexible scenario. And flexibility is a blessing and a curse in these scenarios, but you can bring people in from front row from multiple different physical spaces and or home and try and emulate that looking at each other experience. I think there's an argument to be said that there's use cases for it, and it's not for every use case. And there's also a fair argument to be saying that emulating how things used to work is not always the best use of technology. So yes, if you've got 4 people one and 4 people the other, and you can lay it out nicely, I think it's a really slick experience. But it is just an option. You can run the meeting in other modes if you prefer as well.
Yeah, it's what is an interesting thing is that you have two forces at work here. You have the manufacturers with the hardware that are trying to solve the problem. You have the cloud service that is trying to solve the problem. And then all of a sudden one changes something, so the other one's got to change. The other one changes something, so the other one's trying to figure it out. It's amazing, but you left with meeting equity everywhere. When you left Infocom, Jenny, all I heard about was super stretched 21:9 display. What are we gonna do? Like, wow, now does hardware have to solve this issue? That is a reoccurring theme. And for AV, as the AV professional that grew in this, came up through the AV side, we will consistently, I will guarantee you, we will throw technology at something, physical technology to solve a problem. We're not gonna stop for you to figure out how to raise a hand. That is not in our, we'll get you a button with an LED light that you can put up and you can see that you want to talk, but it's in our ethos to figure it out using hardware. So I guess the question is, who's ultimately going to win this, Tom? Because I think that you're going to tell me that it's going to be the software providers that are going to figure out how to do it. Is it building into the equipment some AI? Jenny, Tom?
Yeah, I guess the cloud providers, not just Microsoft, the other cloud providers, are having a disproportionate influence, right? They own the MCU, the meeting, and they can inject all the clever cloud scale smarts. So there's only so much in the Microsoft world, the ecosystem vendors sign up to work with Teams. There's only so much influence they have over the product, right? They are signing up to work with Teams. But you're quite right. The ecosystem vendors then have the opportunity to inject their own smarts. So Neat and Poly and Crestron and the others all have camera smarts. They're all slightly different, but do similar things. And that in itself can be quite a challenge because they've all got different names for their smart framing, AI, director, symmetry. So as an AV professional or as an end customer trying to choose what to do, it's quite hard to mix and match what is the cloud and what is the third-party ecosystem provider as well.
Yeah, and this is it, isn't it? It's a solution, but with a solution made up from multi-vendor products comes where is the separation of responsibility? Where does it stop at one and where does it start with the other? 21 by 9, I think, is interesting. It's one of those that's made a lot of sense to me. We have had this for years. I remember just as cloud VC was really starting to take off, there was a real sort of argument around should it's sort of the conferencing soundbar system, should they be below the screen or above the screen? And actually, why 6-7 years ago were we not saying, well, the screen's kind of the wrong aspect ratio for this to be easy for anyone? So 21 by 9 makes a lot of sense, particularly with us expecting bigger screen sizes, and we do have numerous ways to achieve it using non-single screen technology. And obviously we also have people like Jupiter who have displays in this aspect ratio. But does it stop there? Because I'm hearing rumors that Microsoft say it could also run in wider resolutions potentially in the future. Are we headed towards a custom resolution world, perhaps? And that kind of leads on to the question of, what do you think we can expect to see next, Tom? Is it AI development from the cloud? Is it a different layout? What do you think that will be the next moves from Microsoft? Can we expect them to bring out a big range of hardware of their own to solve these catch-up problems that we currently have between the hardware that supports them and the updates that they're constantly delivering?
Yeah, the hardware of their own is an interesting one. Obviously, they've got the Surface line of hardware, so they do increasingly. Whereas if you go back a few years, Microsoft had quite a clear line between this is ecosystem or this is us. There is a blurry line now with things like Surface and the cameras, but they are an ecosystem first kind of company, so I think they'll always be ecosystem. One of the things is because MTR has Windows and Android, there's some things they can do on Windows that's more difficult on Android and vice versa in some cases. So multi-resolutions on Windows is interesting, but you need to work very hard to have that be a good experience in every scenario. The things like, with weird button stretches or weird things like that, but it's certainly plausible. But I think the more interesting stuff is the AI stuff, the things like the noise suppression, and you mentioned background chatter in rooms, like getting better at things like that. That's where AI really shines. And often that doesn't get talked about because it doesn't grab the headlines. Like Front Row gets Wall Street Journal headlines because it's like, we're changing the way people meet, but improved AI noise suppression, nobody really understands what that is, yet it makes, I would argue, probably a bigger impact in day-to-day meetings.
Yeah, interesting. It's funny that you went to the AV side. I did not expect that, Tom, from you. I expected this to be an IT issue. Here's your laptop. Now go do your thing. Obviously, I love to see that you're looking at the audio piece of it, because that's something that people forget a lot about. Quality audio is number one behind anything that is UC, first and foremost, even beyond video, to be honest with you. And there's a lot of video heads that are out there right now probably shutting off their computer because I just said that, and I apologize from the bottom of my empty heart right now. So at this point, I actually just want to pick your brain with something that may get you in trouble, may not get you in trouble. Put on your Zoltan or Zoltar futurist helmet, and could you give us a little prediction of what you think is going to happen in the next year, 2 years, 3 years that may change things?
Yeah, it's 3 years is a long way out, but I think that the big thing is
it's amazing that you say 3 years is a long way out. That was like the money nut line 2 years ago. It was like, yeah, 3 to 5 years, no problem. No problem. Here, this is what's coming in 3. Now, in the COVID world that we're living in right now, you got 18 months futuristic.
Yeah. I think we're still seeing the beginning of the AI stuff to really have an impact. One of the things I'm surprised we haven't seen in mass is AI and ML being used to tune room experiences. So, at home I have Sonos. I walk around my room with my iPhone and it does the True Play thing. Like, I get that there's a need for, obviously, particularly knowing the audience, right, for high-end AV where someone's going to tune it up. That's always going to be a thing for the high end. But in these medium and small size rooms, most people aren't paying for that. So why does the room not build in some intelligence to optimize audio and or video dynamically, and not just one time either, but dealing with, the fact that rooms change over time or layouts change. how is the kit not cleverer to be like, oh, okay, like I'll re-optimize myself ever so often.
Yeah, you
Right,
want
and
that
that
ping.
we
the
have
ping
that.
for audio. Yeah.
We have that in other areas. So it's, you know, it's really interesting because number one, you know, acoustic surveys and so on, that's sort of our thing. So we're desperate for that to stay in place in AV because it keeps us all in jobs. But in reality, the recalibration, automated recalibration of systems, that's not alien to AV systems. We've been doing that for a long time, particularly in projection blends and so on. So we know that environments change, design changes, spatial changes, etc. That there's all sorts of things that can affect the performance of technology. So you're absolutely right. I have is it a Sonos Beam? And I do the embarrassing thing. I've done it twice now because we moved house since we bought it. Yeah, we're wandering around, and anyone that's sort of walking past is like, "What's she doing? Holding her phone up and moving it around in circles."
Witchcraft.
Yeah, exactly. Number one, it's a lot of fun. Number two, it works really well. And actually, this is kind of where we've gone wrong. The consumer world have taken really huge leaps in the self-setup, do-it-yourself, plug and play movement. In AV, all we've done is shift from legacy connectivity to USB. That ultimately has been our answer to plug and play, is to just go for it for a single connection. So that's quite exciting and something quite new, I think, to hear about that auto tuning, recalibration, auto calibration. That's really
I just got
interesting
handed
point.
a note, Jenny, that USB-C would like a word with you after this is over.
It's still USB. So we've had a couple of comments. Joel has said, it seems that the one thing that is being repeated is the immersive experience in the past. Cisco, showing your age there, Tamberg, Joel, and Polycom sold $1 million rooms to create an equitable meeting experience. I think that we are probably heading back there. I felt like I saw this start to happen with the pandemic when we all got sent home. So a lot of the IT departments picked any low cost, easy to set up, sort of almost foolproof camera and audio setup, and got it sent to people's homes to enable their desktop. And then as working from home became a choice, not a necessity, we started to see those IT teams and buyers turning to the AV world to say, we now need premium product, because if this person's going to stay at home, they are representing our business and they need to represent it with, you know, good quality kit. So we've seen that. Yeah.
Like they a lot of their fees were based on the gravitas of them walking into the room being the big shot. Suddenly they were on rubbish webcams and people were like, why am I paying $1,000 an hour for that?
Yeah. Yes, Chris.
I figured I'd try this meeting equity thing. So I raised my hand because if I see one more person on CNBC with Apple EarPods on a professional interview, I think I'm going to turn the TV off. I am completely now not going to participate in this. I don't know if they're using the microphones. I kind of question that, or if they're just using it as monitors. Folks, there are websites out there that are dedicated to that. Let me know. I'll tell you what brand to get if you want something a little bit more pro. But please, Apple iPod Pros are not the most pro thing out there.
I think we're being foolish. I think that's probably product placement. I feel like it's been long enough now that anyone that needs to join a broadcast, especially, you don't typically decide that you're going to interview someone 10 minutes before you do so. They have time to get kit out to these people. In the most part, I wonder how much of it is consumer product placement, and then we're falling to that. But I do hope that if we've
I only knew what kind of microphone Jenny used, I would.
You can't see that.
No.
I do.
Jenny, I am winning on the comments today because I've gotten complimented on my dad jokes, and somebody actually agreed with me that audio is critical. Would you believe that? I said something smart outside of, nothing other than audio is critical. Absolutely, our audio is critical. I'll fight that. That's the hill I will die on today. Thank you, LinkedIn commenter, for putting that out there anonymously.
Pains me.
Yes.
In most other aspects of life, I'd say video is the most important thing, but I will concede for UC that audio is more important. But to Joel's point, I completely agree. We used to spend more money creating these equitable experiences. And I think that we have improved our spend in the home office, and hopefully we will see that now as we evolve out of the pandemic and into the new world of hybrid working. Perhaps we've rushed a little too quickly to video enable our meeting spaces, and we might now see heftier investment in those spaces to achieve a better, but that doesn't detract from the point, which is there's a lot of this that we can solve ourselves in how we behave in meetings and our own.
Not either or, is it? Like you need both, and you can't solve the people problem with the kit. Although on the home systems, I think you're right. I'm seeing in the organisations I work with more investment being put to these people that we pay quite a lot of money are at home. Maybe we should spend a few $100s on decent headsets and webcams, or things like the neat frame behind me, that kind of thing. Like a couple of grand, not the cheapest kit, but for a guaranteed experience, all in one, press to go. Like if you're a person that relies on meetings, it's a nice solid way to meet.
Yeah.
So Tom, I have one last question for you. Do you think we've seen the final boss level? I guess if I'm going to take it into a video game perspective, have we reached the final boss level of work from home, or is there still another evolution of that to come? And let me preface that by saying I don't think we did. I think we are still going to see a more mobile workforce that is going to be out and about doing video remotely from remote areas, remote places, as things start to again move and shake and people move from place to place. All it takes is one train strike, and people, obviously in the UK this past summer, will go up in arms over the work from home and return to office. So have we seen the final evolution of the work from home, or do you believe that it's still something there coming?
Yeah, I think the fact we're all talking about it means we're not done yet, because I think eventually it's just going to be a non-conversation. It'll be like sometimes you go here and sometimes you go there, and like your contract won't say you must be here or you must be there. It's really interesting at the moment seeing the big orgs that invested a lot in real estate kind of trying to force people back, and I feel like that's you can argue over the motivations, but I feel a lot of it is we've invested a shed load of money. We need people to come back to justify the money more than the experience. But yeah, no, I think it'll go back and forth a few more times before we kind of say it's just part of how you work. Like, you don't talk about using technology in work and do we use technology or not, right? That's part of work. You don't even talk about it. So I think it'll become like that.
Yep. Producer Ben just handed me this thing that said we do not talk politics on the show, so please refrain. So thank you, Producer Ben. I appreciate it. Because that could get pretty scary if we go down that road. Well, Tom, thank you so much for joining us today and for taking some time out of your busy schedule. Obviously, with your world tour in play with Guns N' Roses, or is it Coldplay? I forget who you're touring with these days. But it's good to see that a keynote speaker joined us today and gave us a little bit of makes sense to my hardware only kind of brain. Jenny will go all over the place and tell you that I'm wrong, but I'm trying. I'm working with Jenny to convince her. At least we can step her down a little bit, because she was very angry in the meetings leading up to this. But Tom, where can we find out more information about your company and yourself, and where can we find you out? Where can we find you online?
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's really fun. I say our worlds are definitely coming together one way or another. So yeah, if you want to find out more about Microsoft Teams, or we're doing quite a lot of videos on Teams rooms as well, it's Empowering.Cloud. Free community. You can sign up there and grab videos and come and say hello. And for me, LinkedIn or Twitter, I'm pretty heavy on LinkedIn. I love it over there. So yeah, if you want to engage around that stuff or disagree with anything I've said, then LinkedIn's a good place to do it.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Please take all your disagreements to LinkedIn for Tom. Don't put him here. We're very positive. We only like sunshines and rainbows here. So thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Talk soon.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
So we have to talk about a bunch of very brave people who have signed up to our Ride 22 Tour de AV, which is a 135 miles or 217 kilometers ride completed over 2 days. And I think we have 24 people joining. They're from across the AV industry. Hopefully that slide will stay on the screen for a little while, because it's going to take a little while for you to read all of the different names of the people who are participating. These guys are riding, I think it's the equivalent distance. So they're riding from Midwich Limited's HQ in Diss all the way to Ascot to our Technology Exposed event. And if you haven't decided which day to attend Tech Expo, or perhaps you are going to arrive on day one, but possibly quite late on in the day, do make an effort to be there before lunchtime, because we hope to welcome the riders in to applause as they arrive at Ascot. So on day one, that'll be on the Wednesday. So that's really exciting. I actually think that this slide is slightly out of date. So we're aiming to raise £18,000 for a range of charities, all listed on this image here. And I actually think we have now exceeded 15K. So we're doing really well, but we do need one final push. And please, if you can donate anything, then do so. It will be shared in amongst the chosen charities of the riders that are all shown on the screen there.
Yeah, I would love to join, but I have an anti-spandex clause in my contract. There is absolutely none of that allowed. Not since the '80s heavy metal movement. So I can't do spandex, but I would love to. I would love to be part of this and help raise money. So folks, please, if you can, help. Help the folks over in Midwich raise money for the charities. And you know what? I have an announcement. Can I drop an announcement too?
Okay.
Well, I don't leave my confines very often. I went to InfoComm. I went to a handful of places here and there, but I will be heading to Dallas at the end of the month. I am going to be at CEDIA. And why? Because I'm going to go talk about work from home. I wish I can talk about Adobe 5.1 sound systems, or 7. Whatever they're up to, 11.1, and big screens and cool smart home gadgets, but I am not that cool. I'm going to go talk about things that people would want in their home office and their side hustles. For example, the people that are putting PTZ cameras, for example, in their kitchens because their YouTube channel has outgrown their actual regular day job. It's time to invest, folks. Do not use your webcam anymore, or do not use your phone to tape your videos. So this is what I'm going to go talk to. I'll be working with the IMCCA as well. They are a big organization that supports the UC, the whole UC community. So we're going to be over there talking about unified communications and how some of the technology in the pro side of the business is making its way into the home, and help reinforce that, yes, maybe some of our residential folks need to pay attention, because most residential folks understand displays, they understand big sound and great sound. Microphones, not so much. Cameras, not so much. It's not really, in outside of security cameras, are really in their vernacular or in their day-to-day. So taking some of our high-end or higher-end up-level, higher than a prosumer level cameras, and talking about how they can be used, deployed within a home environment, and how to set up a work environment like Tom has, with a nice little neat display. And all that sort of stuff is where I'm going to be going. So I'm going to be heading out to CEDIA at the end of the month. If you can, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll get you some more information, including
relevant, right, Chris? Because if anyone has or does regularly invest in the reports from Avixa, we're a couple of months now beyond the latest IOTA being revealed, and there's been a few other reports, and some of the talks from Avixa at InfoComm as well were around the corporate market and how it's risen to become this huge portion of pro AV spend globally now. And one of the most exciting areas, actually, which has already seen growth but is projected for significant growth, which has been part of almost every Avixa talk that I've seen over the last couple of months, is the home office, the working from home space. And it's great. So for a long time, I think we felt a little bit like the consumer and the IT brands were really encroaching on our AV space. And what was our identity with that happening? Have we become technology rather than AV? Where do the lines blur? What is AV and what's not? And it's lovely to see that our expertise, as well as products, are now heading into that what was IT and consumer-led space. And this convergence is opening new opportunities for us as much as it has done for the big IT brands to come into our space. And we have some news.
you're using some big fancy words. I would call it a kumbaya moment between the residential and the commercial folks, but we could call it a convergence. That's okay. Tell me about this big news.
Well, so big news. We started off the show by talking about the fact that it feels like it's awards season, and it definitely is heading towards awards season here in the UK with the AV Awards imminent. And we have been shortlisted for Distributor of the Year. We've also been shortlisted for Disty of the Year by CRN as well. So very exciting to be shortlisted again for Disty of the Year. We get really excited. We take it very seriously, don't we, Chris, with our Midwich awards. So yes, fingers crossed. And also congratulations to the others who have been shortlisted for awards over the next couple of months.
Get that trophy case ready. I'm just, I'm not a really good predictor, but I'm predicting a win. So, but I'm biased. I'm going to have to choose. What do we got coming up next? What's our next show, Jenny? Because now we are back on our routine because we're back home from holiday. So
we are. And we've got a few topics that we want to try and squeeze in before the end of the year. One that's close to my heart, which is sustainability and the environment and what we do about that in our industry. And one that Chris is an expert on in terms of talent acquisition and what's going on in our industry at the moment. In terms of recruiting talent, retaining talent, rewarding talent, etc. So they are a couple of the topics that we hope to tackle before the year is out. But we have received such great support and feedback for our pre-show shows that we have done in the past for ISE and various other events. So we're going to run one of those ahead of Technology Exposed in the UK. And we'll be inviting a couple of our headline brand sponsors of that show to talk about what they're going to have on show there. And we will give you all the latest updates and news about what you can expect if you are able to attend Technology Exposed. So the next show really will be for anyone who is attending to get the lowdown, anyone who's on the fence about attending so that we can push you over, and also those who can't make it to get some information about what will be on show there and ahead of the show. And then, of course, we will update you afterwards as well.
I just confirmed that my not Neto will be visiting the UK ahead of me, so he will be there. If you don't know what Not Neto is, please send me a message and I will send you a picture of what Not Neto was. If you were at Infocom, you know what I'm talking about. If not, then it's a secret and I will tell you via LinkedIn. So reach out and connect, and that's how we will start off a conversation. That's how I engage. Social media guy. That's I'm learning.
Well, we look forward to seeing Not Neto in the UK very soon. A slightly somber note to end our show on. We want to send our very best wishes and hope for a recovery to Her Majesty the Queen, who those of us in the UK have received some concerning news about today. So best wishes, our thoughts are with you. But thank you so much for joining us, everyone. It's been really good to be back. And we'll see you again at the end of this month, I think. So twice in 1 month. I've been Jenny at Midwich Jenny, or on LinkedIn Jenny Hicks. Chris?
You can find me on Twitter at Chris_Neto on Twitter. On LinkedIn, you look up Chris Neto or Christopher Neto CTS. I should be the only one that pops up, but you never know. And thanks again to our great guest, Tom Arbuthnot, who has joined us. He is an expert in all things Microsoft. Please do not hesitate to reach out to him. Not only is he a wealth of information, but he's a good guy too. I'll give him that. He's all right. I thought he was gonna beat me up a little harder on the IT versus AV thing, but he's all right. Okay, he passes, Jenny. You were worried. Come on. It's me. What are we talking about? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been another Midwich Live. We will see you soon. We will see you again this month, as Jenny stated. I look forward to hearing all the great things of all of our guests that are on the show and visiting, going out to Tech Expo, hanging out with Jenny. Jenny may be recording some stuff. You never know. We're kind of wild like that. We depends on, what we wake up and think of that day.
Tune in and you'll find out.
There you go, because it may be live.
Thanks so much.